What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. All right, so before I get into this video, I want to give a shout out to Aaron for his contribution to the channel. I saw your note, and what I'm saying, I know that you are a big time fan of old school NBA. I am as well. Um, but I'm going to try to give today's NBA a chance. I do like the play of Damian Lillard right now. Um, I'm looking forward to hopefully we see the Clippers Lakers rivalry in the playoffs. Hopefully they do end up playing against each other because that's what really, to me drives basketball, either having the team rivalry there or that player versus player rivalry. At least something. We need something to really kickstart some interest here. I'm not a huge fan of today's NBA. This personality-driven NBA is not really my cup of tea. But in this video, and also I want to thank everybody that has supported and contributed to my channel, and I want to thank everybody that's over there on the Patreon. All right, so I'm trying to be much more active right now than I have been. I'm trying to put in work on both of these channels, on both of these formats for you guys. You know what I'm saying? All right, so look, this video I want to talk about somebody that when I was a child, I had no idea who this guy was. I remember reading those Major League Baseball statistical, columns, and I remember reading in 1970s, the home run leaders, and I would see, of course, guys that we know, Reggie Jackson, and and later on in the 70s, Mike Schmidt, and some guys who aren't as well known, but are still kind of known, Norm Cash and um, Gorman Thomas with the Milwaukee Brewers, and of course Willie McCovey. You would see these guys' names. But there was one guy that popped up there that I did not know who he was at the time. That was Dick Allen, right? As a matter of fact, in 1972, he won an MVP award with the Chicago White Sox. But like I said, I didn't know who he was. But what piqued my interest about Dick Allen was there's a book that came out recently. I think it was either this year or late last year. And I was actually looking up online about Reggie Jackson, who is arguably my favorite player of all time. And this book listed the 10, in his opinion, and the guy's name was, or is, Bill Jenkinson. He's a baseball historian. And he ranked the 10 greatest power hitters from his perspective. All right. He wasn't going by total home runs. All right. So this doesn't include Hank Aaron or Willie Mays. So those guys are great power hitters. He's going by guys who consistently hit the baseball farther than everybody else. Okay. True sluggers, guys who hit the ball 450, 475, sometimes in excess of 500 feet. So the thing about it, the 10 players that he named, 9 of them I knew. Okay. I of course knew, Willie Stargell. Of course I knew Harmon Killebrew and Reggie Jackson and Frank Howard, and Mark McGwire. Of course I knew these guys. I think I'm missing somebody that was there that I know too. There's one guy I think I'm missing. The top guy, of course, was Babe Ruth. Second was Jimmy Fox. Third was Mickey Mantle. I'm missing somebody that was on that list. I don't think it was Sammy Sosa. Might have been Sammy. I'm not sure about that. There was some other guy that he mentioned, but the one guy I didn't know was Dick Allen. I had no idea much. I didn't know much about him, and he ranked Dick Allen fourth. He ranked Dick Allen ahead of Reggie Jackson. He ranked Dick Allen ahead of Frank Howard. he ranked Dick Allen ahead of Mark McGwire. So I started reading about what his peers thought about him. So Willie Mays, arguably the greatest all-around player of all time, stated that he thought Dick Allen hit the baseball harder than any player that he had ever seen. Okay? So when you have Willie Mays, the great Willie Mays, say that about you, then you really are something, truly special. There was a scout from the Phillies named John Ogden, all right, who pitched back when Babe Ruth played. He's the one I think that discovered Dick Allen for the Phillies. Now, Ogden pitched, like I said, against Babe Ruth in the AL. Ogden stated in a Philadelphia Bulletin story back in 1969 that Dick Allen was the only player he ever saw who hit a ball as hard as Babe Ruth. So I was like, wow, okay, who was this guy, So I've been reading more and more about him. And, it's sort of some of the typical things that I expected. He was born in 1942. So he was born the same year as Muhammad Ali. And he grew up in an area that wasn't really that bad as far as racism is concerned. But the first real racism he experienced was when he grew up playing baseball. He loved baseball. He grew up playing baseball. He hit a baseball like every day. And, he developed into a very muscular young man. All right. He was 5'11". By the time he reached the minors, he was about 187, 188 pounds. But it was all muscle. So he went to the minor league affiliate for the Phillies in Little Rock, Arkansas. Little Rock, Arkansas. And if you know anything about Little Rock, Arkansas, in that time period, 1963, that wasn't a good time to be a black person in that town. Okay. In fact, Dick Allen's playing career got off to a turbulent start as he faced racial harassment while playing for the Phillies minor league affiliate in Little Rock. Residents staged protest parades against Allen, the local team's first black player. Nevertheless, he led the league in total bases. His first full season in the majors, which is 1964, ranks amongst the greatest rookie seasons ever. He led the league in runs with 125, triples with 13, extra base hits with 80, total bases with 352. Allen finished in the top 5 in batting average, boasting a .318 average, slugging percentage 557, total hits for 201, doubles for 38, and won Rookie of the Year. He also set a rookie record for the Phillies at that time, hitting 29 home runs. Interestingly enough, I've read that a trade that he was involved in 1970, when he had enough of being with the Phillies, with the racism, with Philadelphia and all that type of stuff. And he was traded to the St. Louis Cardinals. It was that trade that initially involved Curt Flood. And Curt Flood refused that trade, as we all know, famously based upon, the fact that he believed that he had the right as a free agent to choose where he wanted to play. And he was replacing that trade by another guy who was a rookie, or a rookie player hadn't played yet, or at least any meaningful games yet. And he wound up breaking Dick Allen's rookie record, hitting 30 home runs in 1970 or 71 or something like that. But anyway, even though Dick Allen had a very successful rookie year, he had a lot of issues with the press, the media, and even with certain teammates. In fact, non-baseball incidents soon marred Allen's Philadelphia career. In July 1965, he got into a fist fight with fellow Philly Frank Thomas, not to be mistaken for the Big Hurt. This is a different Frank Thomas. According to two teammates who witnessed the fight, Thomas swung a bat at Allen, hitting him in the shoulder. Johnny Callison said Thomas got himself fired when he swung that bat at Richie. In baseball, you don't swing a bat at another player, ever. Pat Corrales confirmed that Thomas hit Allen with a bat and added that Thomas was a bully known for making racially divisive remarks. Allen and his teammates were not permitted to give their side of the story under threat of a heavy fire and fine. The Phillies released Thomas the next day. That not only made the fans and local sports writers see Allen as costing a white player his job, but freed Thomas to give his version of the fight. In an hour-long interview aired December 15, 2009 on the MLB Network's Studio 42 with Bob Costas, Allen asserted that he and Thomas are in fact good friends now. Also, and this is the one that was the most ridiculous to me, right? Allen's name was a source of controversy. He had been known since his youth as Dick to his family and friends, but for reasons which are still somewhat obscure, the media referred to him upon his arrival in Philadelphia as Richie, possibly a conflation with the longtime Philly star Richie Ashburn. After leaving the Phillies, he asked to be called Dick, saying Richie was a little boy's name. In his dual career as an R&B singer, the label on his records with the Groovy Grooves firmly slated him as Rich Allen. I think it's a phallic thing, to be honest with you. You know what I'm saying? I'm pretty sure a lot of other white players before him were named, they called him Dick. But for some reason, you see this young, strongly built black guy, and for some reason, you just can't even say the name Dick like it conjures up some inferiority complex in your mind. You know what I'm saying? I think it was a phallic thing, to be honest with you. A childish phallic thing. Some of the Phillies' own fans, known for being tough on hometown players even in the best of times, exacerbated Allen's problems. Initially, the abuse was verbal, with obscenities and racial epithets. Eventually, Allen was greeted with showers of fruit, ice, refuse, and even flashlight batteries as he took the field. He began wearing his batting helmet even while playing his position in the field, which gave rise to another nickname, Crash Helmet or Crash. He almost ended his career in 1967 after mangling his throwing hand by pushing it through a car headlight. Allen was fined $2,500 and suspended indefinitely in 1969 when he failed to appear for the Phillies' twilight doubleheader game with the New York Mets. And as I mentioned before, Allen had enough of the situation. He demanded a trade. That's the trade I mentioned that happened involved Kurt Flood. The guy that hit 30 home runs was named Willie Montanez. He was treated much better with the St. Louis Cardinals. In fact, they adhered to his wishes, and Jack Buck, the famous announcer with the Cardinals, made a point from game one of calling him Dick Allen. But decades before Mark McGwire, Dick Allen entertained the St. Louis fans with some long home runs. And he had a really good season with the Cardinals. But he was traded after the season to the Los Angeles Dodgers. And in 1971, he had a pretty quiet season for them despite hitting .295. It was 1972 with the Chicago White Sox where Dick Allen really, really took off. He had a monster season. He hit 37 home runs. Remember, this was an era that was more conducive to pitchers. This was, as a matter of fact, it was often called the second dead ball era the late 60s into 1970s. I think a lot of pitchers at that time were starting to complain that offenses were becoming too slanted. You know what I'm saying? You started seeing a lot of guys hitting a lot of home runs at that time. You know, of course, Roger Maris hit 61 and 61. You had guys hitting 50 home runs more frequently. Pitchers kind of had complained about that, that hitting was starting to supersede pitching and things were beginning a little becoming too unbalanced. So Major League Baseball made efforts to give pitchers more advantages. They raised the mound and, other things started happening. I think they shrunk the strike zone too, if I'm not mistaken, during this time period. So the pitchers began to, no, excuse me. They expanded the strike zone, not shrunk it. They expanded the strike zone, which gave pitchers more advantages. And, as a fact, batting averages dropped, home runs fell, and, to hit 30 home runs in that era was like hitting 45 now. But Dick Allen led the league in home runs with 37, which set a team record. He had 113 RBI, walked 99 times, had an on-base percentage of 422, a slugging percentage of 603, and an OPS of 1.023, while winning a well-deserved MVP award. And he was known for that season for hitting some very long home runs. And this was Comiskey. This was the old Comiskey Park, which was not a very hitter-friendly park. There was one particular home run that he hit that, had it not been stopped by hitting the roof, would have surpassed 500 feet in distance. I was looking at some footage of Dick Allen, right, hitting. And Dick Allen did some things that were not, the norm. Ted Williams was considered like supposedly, Ted Williams is the modern day baseball tactician. He looked at hitting as a science, and he's the one that popularized using a lighter bat for generating bat speed. Before him, the prevailing notion was that you used a heavier bat. Babe Ruth used a 42-ounce bat. Afterwards, guys started using lighter and lighter bats because it was thought that, well, it's not so much the bat you use, it's the bat speed that you generate. But Dick Allen bucked that trend and used a 40-ounce bat. And I noticed that when Dick Allen swung, he did not use a compact swing like, say, somebody like Hank Aaron, who used bat speed. Willie Mays, another guy that used bat speed. Dick Allen, he not only used bat speed, but it's like he generated his own bat speed. He would come all the way back and have his bat turned to an angle. His bat was turned all the way back, and he would come back around, and this created so much torque. And plus, when he swung, he put his whole body into a pitch. I mean, excuse me, not to a pitch. He would put his whole body into the pitch thrown, and this would generate so much momentum and bat speed and power and torque, and all these things helped. And plus his incredible strength, it created the energy needed to hit a baseball 450 and 500 feet. And that's why I thought of calling him Mike Tyson in the title, because, Tyson, his technique was he put his whole body in a punch. He threw everything, not just the arms, not just the upper body, but he threw his whole body into a punch to generate that power. And, Dick Allen was known for that. But the thing about Dick Allen, was injuries just ruined his career, man. He suffered so many different injuries. The worst was the broken leg that he suffered in 1973, the very year after the MVP year. He fractured his fibula. And, this was before modern day advancements in medicine, and he was never able to really regain his form after he fractured his fibula. And I want to talk about Dick Allen's career for a second here, his numbers. Now, he played from 1963 to 1977, which is not an exceptionally long time. It's not that long a career. Um, when you think about it, he, look, when you think about it, look, you had guys like Babe Ruth that played over 20 years. Ty Cobb played well over 20 years, maybe like 24 years. Pete Rose played like 24 years. Nolan Ryan played for 27 years, I think it was a record, close to it. Barry Bonds played over 20 years. Rafael Palmeiro played almost 20 years, I think. Reggie Jackson played over 20 years. Willie McCovey played over 20 years. Um, Hank Aaron, Willie Mays, they all played over 20 years. So they were able to accumulate numbers that Dick Allen wasn't able to. Plus, Dick Allen missed a lot of games. I think he missed over 600 games in his career, maybe close to 700 due to injuries. And, he still hit 351 home runs. And, you wonder what would have happened even in that shorter career if he didn't miss so many games. He probably would have exceeded 400 home runs and helped his case a little bit better. But if it wasn't for injuries, yeah, I think that he would have easily surpassed 400 home runs. He probably would have been up there with Willie Starrs as far as number of home runs. But, this guy is, look, he only had 6,000 at bats. So that's close to what Mark McGwire had. And you can't really compare his numbers to the era of the steroid era guys. It's a totally different era. Those guys took advantage of modern day weight training, um, you know, uh, supplements. Uh, let's be honest, anabolic steroids. Ballparks were smaller because they wanted more home runs hit. Now the ball is juiced. Pitchers no longer have that advantage with the raised mound. The mound was lowered. So every advantage that a hitter would want, he would have now. Now they're going to have a designated. Now, starting this season, now they have a designated hitter. The designated hitter did not begin until 5 years after he retired. So a guy like Dick Allen, who was beat up from playing in the field, now your job is just to hit. You're not playing in the everyday field. Now you can extend your career longer. So if Dick Allen played in the 90s, just imagine with anabolic steroids, he could have put on an additional 20 pounds or so to what he already naturally weighed. He could have been 230, 5'11", playing in these small ballparks. Okay, but the pitchers don't have the advantages they had back then. And you could be a designated hitter once you go past 34, 35 years old to extend your career until you're 37, 38. Who knows what type of numbers he could have put up in that era? I'm pretty sure he would have had a couple of 50-homer seasons, for sure. So he would have easily hit 500 home runs. And we wouldn't be having this conversation. You know what I'm saying? Unless he got linked to the steroid situation, and that's another thing. But when I look at his numbers, right, he has a batting average that's higher than both Reggie Jackson and Cal Ripken and Eddie Murray. He has more home runs than George Brett, and Cecil Fielder. Okay? And when you take it to the context of the era that he played in, I mean, I'm looking at it. He led the league in OPS 4 times. He led the league in OPS plus 3 times. He led the league in total bases once. He led the league in slugging 3 times. He led the league in on base percentage twice. He led the league in walks once. He led the league in home runs twice. Yeah, this is a guy who really needs to be looked at, as far as being in the Hall of Fame. And it's interesting I'm making this video that just today, the Philadelphia Phillies have decided to retire his number 15. And it was 6 years ago that Dick Allen appeared for the first time as a candidate on the Baseball Hall of Fame's Golden Era Committee. And it's a 16-vote committee, and he needs 12 votes to be elected. He missed it by 1 vote back then. He missed it by 1 vote. He received 11 votes. But the Golden Days Committee is scheduled to vote again in 2020 for induction into the Hall's class of 2021. Hopefully, this is the year for Dick Allen, because I'm being honest. I've read that he's now 78 years old, and I read that his health is beginning to fail. So I really hope, that he doesn't end up like Ron Santo. Like Ron Santo, for so many years, while he was alive, was lobbying to be in the Hall of Fame. And I think they didn't let Ron in until literally months after he passed. So it would be a tragedy for him to be not in the Hall of Fame while he can still be alive to see it. Look, about him being controversial, I think Bill James, who is a baseball historian, and he's one of the guys big with analytics for baseball, he said that in his opinion, Dick Allen was the second most controversial ball player after Rogers Hornsby. And I have to say this. In what aspect? Because, he didn't deal with racism either from the crowds or from his teammates the Jackie Robinson way. Everybody's not Jackie Robinson. There's no knock on Jackie Robinson. Jackie Robinson kind of had to do that because he was the first. But nobody should have to endure that. I don't like when people who aren't black, I'm sorry, I just gotta be honest. I don't like when people who aren't black, who are not black, telling black people how they should respond to racism. How dare you? Okay, how dare you? And first of all, how is Dick Allen more controversial than Ty Cobb? Ty Cobb, a guy who beat up a handicapped person in the crowd because he called him the person called him a half nigger. But you want Dick Allen to show restraint. Be, have fans throw objects at him and call him racial epithets and have teammates, call him everything in the book, but he's supposed to just turn the other cheek and be a strong, proud, God-fearing Negro. But Ty Cobb gets to put his hands on everybody. You know what I'm saying? Ty Cobb would beat up upon the weak. Ty Cobb was putting hands on women, black men who, for just the littlest transgression, if they spoke up and stood for themselves, he would put his hands on them, beat them up. This is a guy that, like I said, beat up a handicapped person in the crowd. This is a guy that, whether it was true or not, supposedly bragged about killing somebody in a brawl before a game, right? This is a guy that, even if some of the stuff has been embellished over the years, this is a guy that was, at the very least, a sociopath and a racist. And also, if the allegations are true, and I believe they were, and I think it was covered up by fellow white supremacist and racist, Commissioner Kennesaw Mountain Landis. I do believe that Ty Cobb and Tris Speaker betted on those games, and they should have been thrown out of Major League Baseball. But they're both in the Hall of Fame, even though Tris Speaker refused to go to, when he was a manager, I believe it was, later on in his career, he refused to go to one of his ball players' funerals because it was a Catholic funeral. This guy was scum, okay? Scum, racist, KKK member. But Dick Allen is controversial. What it is that Dick Allen was before his time, okay? Dick Allen is a guy who in today's culture would just be seen as a proud black man and proud of his heritage and, you know, spoke out on civil rights. That's what he'd been seen as. But this world, this country, at that time, just fresh out of the 50s, they weren't ready for a guy like Dick Allen. And you had a whole bunch of, sports writers who were used to guys looking like Dick Allen kissing their what. But it's funny. Have you ever noticed that strong black men, and in particular, I gotta be honest right here, strong, dark-skinned black men who rarely smile unless they're actually happy and are serious and are about their business and don't go around kissing the media's butt. You ever notice they always get, projected as team obliterators, as Skip Bayless puts it, whether you're talking about Terrell Owens or whether you're talking about Barry Bonds or, in this situation, Dick Allen. They always get called these terms, even though you have guys like Hall of Famer Rich Goose Gossage, who said that Dick Allen was the smartest baseball man he ever knew and taught him more about baseball as a pitcher and helped to improve his career. Never mind, you have Mike Schmidt, who said that, Dick Allen was a mentor to him and that it was a lie that Dick Allen caused divide or racial divide in the clubhouse. It was a lie invented by press, okay? The media had it in for Dick Allen. They poo-pooed him as a singer. Dick Allen had a R&B group. This is a very talented person, but they poo-pooed him in Philadelphia for that until they actually heard him sing. So yes, I say in this video, hopefully Dick Allen, I hope this video helps sway anybody. If anybody's on that committee, I hope they reach this video. I hope he gets into the Hall of Fame. He deserves it. I hope he gets it into it while he's still here to deserve it. I mean, to appreciate it. And at the end of the day, you know what I'm saying? I'm convinced that this is going to be the year that Dick Allen gets into Cooperstown. All right. This is a guy that didn't play for stats. I saw a teammate of his say that he didn't go out there and just try to get numbers and all that. He had an all-around game. And if it wasn't for injuries, you know what I'm saying, his numbers would have been even more impressive. But this is a guy that was a great ball player. And to me, he is the best player right now, naturally, talented-wise. He's the best player not in the Hall of Fame. And if he played in the steroid era, I can only imagine what his numbers would look like. But tell me what you guys think.